We called it the gift of suffering. This suffering is not in vain. There's something behind it. There's something bigger. What is it that we have to learn in this situation? So he used it, to help others.
Hi guys, welcome back to Heal to Feel. Today I have my beauty next to me,
You're
MJ.
a beauty. Loving
you.
the green.
Thank you. The green.
Did you get your makeup done, or did you do it yourself?
I mean, I wish I could say I did it myself.
It looks really good every time.
Thanks.
I wouldn't be able to do my own makeup, especially eyes.
No, my eyes are tiny, so we got to make them pop. But today we have a very
You
special
have beautiful
guest.
eyes, by the way. Sorry, I'm not going to let you lead with.
Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you. They're small.
Gotcha.
But
They're gorgeous.
Thank you. I want to introduce you guys to a special guest. It's Barbie Conkling.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Your story it's super fascinating, and I actually remember seeing your story online, and we'll get into that. But you're not a death doula, you're a death midwife, as well as a Reiki practitioner.
Yeah.
What is a death doula midwife?
So there's doula and midwife, but Barbie's going to explain too. And really, a lot of people got to know you through your son's, earthbound journey, and you lost him when he was 31 years old.
Yep.
And we'll get into that. But can you explain, first of all, you said you're not a death doula, you're a death midwife. So explain the difference and then explain to us what you do.
Absolutely. Sometimes I'll throw out death doula because it's more relatable and people kind of understand that. When I say death midwife, they're like, wait, what? So the way that I was trained with my teacher, she does training for death doula and death midwifery. A death doula takes you up to final breath. A death midwife is beyond. So I'm actually trained to honor a body, a vessel with dry ice for 5 days. And so do a home ceremony, a memorial, the visual. I'm also a minister, so I can, do the undertaking for a celebration of life, typically with the body on dry ice. So I really cover A to Z. When I come in and start working with a family, I explain to them, I bridge the gap between the medical and the spiritual world. But I'll do the heavy lifting, deal with the mortuary ahead of time and be the liaison with hospice. I understand medically what's happening, and then just kind of one-on-one grief counseling with the family, and just really bring the Reiki in and prepare, this soul to leave the body. And then afterwards, I highlight what I love to do the most is the ceremony with the vessel after the soul has left.
What does the ceremony look like?
So typically, and everybody's looks a little different, understanding where they are in their religious beliefs and what feels right for them. As soon as the soul leaves the body, I let the family have, whatever time they need to kind of process what just happened. And I'm more of a guide, and I encourage the family to participate, and I'll just guide them through this unless it's just too much. But cleaning up the vessel, typically, the body will release. And so I clean them up and encourage, everyone to participate in the warm washcloth, bathing, anointing in oil, swaddling, shrouding, and then bringing earth. And typically when someone's on hospice, there is a house full of flowers already.
Yeah.
So, they'll use those flowers and lay them on the body. And whatever sentimental, whether it's a cross or, a Buddha, whatever, is part of their earthly, beliefs, incorporate that, crystals, whatever it is. And just find the beauty in that. I really, the last transition I just, sat with, we made this crown of flowers around her head. I supported her head with a rolled up sheet, and I kind of prepare that and then have them come in. And so they'll sit as long as they need and find the healing and the closure that they need. When they're ready, then I'll call the mortuary and say, the family's ready, whether it's 5 hours or 5 days.
Wow. And
typically not 5 days, that's
I did save my my dog, my very first dog that I ever had, and he is like part of my soul.
Oh.
And I was not expecting him to pass, and so I kept him for 5 days with ice. But I thought I was making it up because it was like what you're describing. I did it because I wasn't ready to like leave, and then I didn't know that this was possible to do with humans because I did call my doctor vet and ask them if I'm allowed to do it, and they said that I could, but
this is a really important thing for you to bring up because people don't know. No one has given them permission. Take the amount of time that you need. And if you need to sit with this loved one, in many cultures, it takes 3 days, from the soul, for the soul to finally leave the vessel. And we're not given the permission because a century ago, we replaced our ceremonial death rites with fear and handed it to the Western medical world. So in our Western culture now, we're left with this, it's like this void, and it's just fear, and it's sterile, and we don't know what to do. We no longer know what to do. And our inherent ceremonial, cultural, lineage has been erased by this, this void. And so, you intuitively knew what to do. You needed that time, and you listened to that. And that is so beautiful,
I love that.
It scared my mom because no one had really like gone through that before. She did sit in bed with me with concern. And my best friend at the time, she was also my neighbor in my building. Yeah. And they both kind of looked at each other like, okay. And they kind of loved and supported me and mourned with me. It was a very, I said, it felt like it was the way that people should. Yeah. This feels like, now that we're talking about it, like the way people should have to, when we have to part with someone, like this is how we should do it.
So I agree. When you're with people who are going to pass, do you find that people finally get to the acceptance phase? Do you find that they're resistant? Do you find that they're fearful?
Family or?
Not the family, the actual person, the body who's passing. Yeah.
Both.
Okay.
People pass the way they lived. People die the way they lived. And if they were a fighter and they were,
wow.
And so a lot of that personality and that energy that they carried in this lifetime shows up, in their final moments. Some people hold on tighter. I really try to come in and, cut the cords with Reiki and amplify their life force to make it easier for their soul to leave their body, unscrewing their chakras. I definitely have little Reiki, ceremony that I do daily because people will come and touch them, and it's like that clinging energy, whether they say it or not, but I don't want you to go.
Yeah.
And it's like, these are energetic cords that are tethering. So, I really am mindful to cut those cords and amplify their energy and work on the crown chakra, where I believe the soul leaves from the crown chakra. So whether it's holy water or, whatever it is, I'll try to purify this and really amplify and open the crown chakra up. So, as for people resisting, I really try to work on eliminating that and making it as smooth as possible for the soul to leave.
And do you find that family members, whoever's around them, I've heard stories and seen it where people finally say, it's okay, you can go.
Really
like
important.
Giving them permission to go, important. And then they do. Or they'll go down for coffee and then the soul goes. They almost don't want to die sometimes in front of that person. Or they'll say, I went down for 5 minutes, use the bathroom, and then they left. They do it on purpose, right?
With my dad, that happened.
Yeah.
I went to my car to get my phone charger.
See, he didn't want you to see him take it. Right?
And it was the energy exchange between you, right? It was like tethering him. It was that
for
love
sure.
and that connection where
he stayed for so long. His brother, my uncle, was like, you really got to let him go. He was just, a body not even there for such a long time. I could go into detail, but it would be really dark because, like, for instance, the number of years he was on a feeding tube and things like that, real quality of like trach, blah, blah. So, but I have a question about the people that come and visit that tether. Can you also help them heal by teaching them that instead of like holding on, that they should just express their love so that they can let go?
Yeah. So there's 5 things that I always encourage people, when someone goes on hospice or people call me and, it's the final moments. And it is thank you. And whatever words, thank you for being my mom. Thank you for being my sister, my best friend. Thank you for bringing your light into the world. Please forgive me for whatever it is. I forgive you. I love you. Goodbye. So those 5 things are crucial because a lot of people will tether waiting for the unresolved forgiveness. And sometimes they need that validation of who they were in this lifetime, the imprint that they made. So they just need to like hear it, know that their work is done. The I love you and the goodbye is it's okay to go. I'm going to be okay. I understand that it's time for you to go. I understand. And I'm here with you. You're safe. We're all holding this space for you. So those 5 things, whether it's in a letter, and sometimes if a death is abrupt and people don't have this golden hospice time or knowing that this is happening, I always encourage people to write those letters and burn them in ceremony, and just help with the soul that left, just find that peace and that neutrality.
You guys, whenever people talk about write something down and then burn it, the way that I've heard this ritual, and I did it with my friend Marisol Patton, shout out. She she manifested so she lost her mom and her dad in a row, and her mom hung on for a really long time. Like you said, she was like a fighter in her life, and so she really also Cuban baby. And she was my friend when she was teaching us about writing it down. She said, anything you want, you also write it down, but then you also burn it. And I always wondered, is there a rule with like how we're supposed to manifest with you write down what you want or you write down what you don't want? What do you like? Is there like a practice for that you believe?
I work a lot with the moon. I love the moon. I'm a moon girl. So the full moon, I will write what I want to release. And the new moon is the manifestation. So what I want to bring in for this next moon cycle. So the new moon. So basically you writing it down, you're taking the power out of here and you're manifesting it on paper. And when you burn it, you're giving it to the universe. So just know like the full moon is for release. The new moon is bringing in.
Full moon is for release. New moon is for bringing in. Yeah, right now like we're in the slicey. I wake up super duper early. It's really beautiful time. You can see tiny little slice of moon is right now.
Yeah. That's how they would,
it's like 2 weeks.
That's how they would keep track of
every 2 weeks.
The time.
Every 2 weeks, like a full moon, 2 weeks, the new moon, then the full moon. And so you can like check in too on the full moon, like what did you manifest? What did you, put your intentions in for the new moon? Where are you at?
I already forgot though. New moon is for manifesting. Yeah. Okay. New moon. So when we're in the beginning, the slice, that's when we manifest, and the full moon is like release.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. New moon is no moon at all.
New moon is no moon.
Yeah. There's one night where there's no moon.
Oh, wow.
It's completely dark. Yeah.
So question for you. Do you believe in, before we come here, you have soul contracts?
100%.
Wow. So you believe like we write these scripts?
Yeah.
Okay. So therefore you do agree, which we're going to get into now with your son who passed, but he's still very much probably here right now watching. We love you. But we were talking even earlier, with contracts, as you guys know, I've talked about it a lot, we all we sit with our spirit guide, we look at our other lifetimes, we see what we want to learn in this lifetime, what our soul mission is, and then, we pick actors in our play. Mm-hmm. And so your son, who is such a special soul, and we even talked about this before, I mean, his name was Lyon, is Lyon, right? And, we talk about how the soul picks their name.
Yeah.
So tell us how you think And I asked Barbie earlier, I was like, do you believe souls pick their name? She said, absolutely, because her son was such a fighter and such a huge force in this jungle of life. And the fact that his name was Lyon, Lyon, tell us how that name came to you.
I spent about 3 months of my early pregnancy in Kauai on the North Shore. And, so I was 16 years old, I was a young teen mom. It was
so you
never
had
a
him young.
thought that this child shouldn't be here. Like the day I peed on the stick, 2 lines, it was almost like, okay, like everything just kind of synced up. I knew this is this mission, right? This bigger soul mission. And everyone's like, what are you doing? You're in high school. You have no. And I was like, I'm keeping my baby. Like it wasn't even a thought. And I was nannying a family and in Kauai for a couple months with them. And at the very end, by the Nepali coast, it was at tunnels, literally like the last cove, And I was floating and I could hear, the little shells, in my ears and just looking up at the sky. And it was just like this, it was just dropped into my mind.
Yeah.
And it was
that's
like
what people say.
Lion.
Yeah.
And it was Lion. That's what was dropped in. But then I was like, I want to make it different.
Yeah.
And so that's where I threw the Y in. And then his middle name, because I was staring up at the sky, I was like, Lion Sky. And I'm like, no, Lion Skylar. So he was Lion Skylar.
Which couldn't be it couldn't be more perfect for his life.
Courageous, yeah.
Yeah, the life journey. And that's just one example. But if you guys all at home think about how did your baby's name come into your mind, there's all different ways. Sometimes it'll come through a little sibling or because they're more open and they're connected, But there is a lot of energy behind everybody's name. And they say we pick our name, our body, what we're going to look like. This is all based on what your mission and what you need to learn in this lifetime.
Yeah.
So tell us, this Lion's beautiful, most gut-wrenching journey, but at the same time beautiful because
it was so beautiful.
Taught us so much. And you guys obviously had this contract together. And I'm so happy you think like that because obviously it doesn't take the pain away from losing him physically, but share a little about him and his story to the audience.
Yeah. So I'm this young teen mom and I'll just give you a briefing of, let me rewind and just tell you who Lyon was as this little boy. He was this ball of light. And I always felt, I'm like, this soul is like too big for this body. He was it was like he was beaming at the seams. And he led with unconditional love. He would want to talk to every homeless person sitting on a cardboard box and play handball with them and ask their name. And he led with this unconditional love where it was notable early on. And just so friendly, every report card, he just talked so much, he just was so friendly and so loving. When he was 4 years old, I took him out of the bath and I was drying him off and found a golf ball sized tumor on his hip. And, I'm 21 years old. I have no idea. I was actually pregnant with my daughter.
Oh my God.
Had no idea what it was. And, cut to doctor appointments, needle biopsy. It's a desmoid tumor. I have no idea. I've never heard of a desmoid tumor. It's a soft tissue sarcoma. So we just kind of write it off. They remove it. And, it was chalked up to maybe he bumped his hip and it just grew this tumor. The next 2 years, he started showing signs of colon cancer, which I didn't know, what I was looking at. But his, stools changed and the pain and abdominal pain and blood and mucus in the toilet. And for about a year, I chased, answers and kept getting the dumbest answers ever. It was like, eliminate peanuts from his diet.
Oh my God.
I just remember leaving every doctor appointment, feeling like no one's taking me seriously. I'm this young single mom. No one believes me. And I would just cry, it was pre-cell phone, pre-Google. So I had no idea what was going on. And I finally opened up the yellow pages at work one day on a payphone. And I knew gastroenterology was GI. And I called a GI doctor at UCLA and was hysterical. I was like, somebody help me. And we went in and they did a colonoscopy, and he had thousands of polyps in his colon and his rectum, which is associated. That's when he was diagnosed with Gardner syndrome. So a genetic mutation that perpetuates, desmoid tumors, polyps that turn to cancer. They biopsied, they were malignant. So 4 months later, he had a full colectomy, and that's when chemotherapy started.
How old is he now at this point?
He's 6.5. So basically from like 6, 7 to his final breath at 31, I think there were like 48 something surgery. We lost count, but it was like in the upper 40s. Many different rounds of different chemotherapies, stem cells in Germany twice. I took him to every healer I possibly could. I took him to John of God in Brazil before there was a scandal.
I remember Wayne Dyer used to go to John of God. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just, there wasn't a stone I left unturned. Yeah. And, this is an incurable disease. There's no gene mutation, gene replacement for this mutation. And through that, he, this light that he carried remained. And every nurse, every oncologist, every doctor, 3 months in the hospital, they would come by to see him just to grab a bit of his light, because he would walk in and it was like he was in love with every single person. Aww. And they were like, this child is so special. He's just this loving energy. And, early on, understanding that him and I chose this path. I became clear before he did, because he was young, but then we talked about it and it just became normal.
What age did you talk about it?
I read Many Lives, Many Masters when I was 19. Okay. So by the time he was diagnosed, I already had this understanding of like, I came here to learn these things. And there were moments that I was brought to my knees where I just needed to understand. I had to understand on a deeper level what this was. So we called it the gift of suffering. Early on, I was like, this suffering is not in vain. There's something behind it. There's something bigger, and it can always be worse. And these are deep lessons for our soul to grow and understand, like, what is it that we have to learn in this situation?
What a gift for you to have that knowledge, though, because I'm not saying it makes it any different, the pain, but to really, because a lot of people, death is final and I'm never going to talk to them. Oh, and I wish they could see this, and I wish my mom could see and I'm like, but they are, like, their consciousness never dies. Like, I wish people would understand that this is temporary. Yeah. This is the suffering. Yeah. They are not suffering. They are happy, unconditionally loved, and all they want is for us to live. And yet, so many people spend days and years of depression and guilt and, I'm laughing right now. That's not okay because they're not. And they're like, no, like banging their head against the wall,
Yeah.
So I was going to say you're also pregnant at the time that you're going through this phase, right?
Yeah. Well, the initial first tumor, I was pregnant with my daughter. I found that tumor when I was 6 weeks pregnant. I knew I had just found out I was pregnant.
Were you afraid that any of the other kids would have this genetic mutation?
Well, I didn't know it was a genetic mutation until we did the genetic testing when they did the colonoscopy. So by then I only had my daughter. My third child wasn't born until 2005. But I had a colonoscopy. And so I didn't have any polyps. Back then, it was like 1999 or 2000. I did mine. They didn't have the advanced like genomes test, but I didn't have any. And then I eventually did do the genetic testing. So my other kids never got tested because I'm not a carrier. Oh, so he mutated on his own. And this is interesting because this disease, desmoid tumors are 1 in a million. Gardner syndrome is 1 in 3 million. For Lyon to mutate on his own is a 3% chance. out of this like 1 in 3 million, so the odds are just so crazy. And so early on, people would be like, it's a genetic mutation. I'm like, it's a karmic mutation.
It's 100%.
You know what I mean? And they're like, I don't understand. Karmic, like, was, insinuating that he was some like criminal in a past life.
Because people look at karma as like you're getting punished, but that's not what karma. It's a rebalancing, or it's I'm going to teach the world.
Well, I felt that he came here, and it's, I'm not like, trying to make my child this grandiose figure, but it was how he walked through something so big in such grace, that it was almost master energy, right? Like he just
advanced,
advanced.
A lot of advanced souls. They'll come in with diseases or handicaps.
Yeah.
They're the most advanced, and they're just here to teach us.
Yeah.
Right?
So that's why it's like a karmic mutation, because he was the teacher. He was ready to have this disease to show people, how not to become the suffering.
So talk to us about that. Like, what do you think he taught? When did he really understand, that he might not live a long life, and let me try to live life to the fullest? Like, when did this all start to hit him?
This
at what
was
age?
like early teenage years. I remember I kind of sheltered him in the beginning. Like, you just show up for the procedure and I'm going to like absorb all the emotional and, handle that. So we kind of had this little soul pact where like, you've got to deal with the physical. I'm going to, kind of shelter until you're ready. It was like 11 or 12 when the abdominal tumors really started to manifest in the chemotherapy. And, I knew we were on borrowed time at that point. And, I would share with him, I remember someone said like, oh, you can die from this. He's like, no, I'm not going to die. And then there were, times the doctors were, if we can't, get this tumor under control, he may have like 3 months. And so there were definitely early on those little messages of, the medical world trying to put a timeline on him, but they really couldn't. And he just, his soul being so big, he just went big. Like this soul, this child, this human, as he grew into this human, like surfed 30-foot waves at sunset, towed in. He swam with great white sharks. He lived so unbelievably big. And he would do this with a port, sometimes with a pick line. At the end, he had drains like tucked in his pockets, doing like triple jumps on motocross. Like no one knew, and he was friends with a lot of people in the motocross world and the surfing world, and they had no idea. And he would take his shirt off and it was just, a war map of like tumors and scars. And they're like, and he's like, oh yeah, I've got this, but I think it's really important to share that, there's conscious suffering and unconscious suffering. And unconscious suffering is when you become the suffering. And Lyon never became the suffering. He, the path that he took was this conscious suffering of, I'm going to recognize that there are these hurdles and there's pain and there's fear, and I'm going to alchemize it and become of service because of it. And he didn't carry the suffering in his backpack. Like he went out and helped others because of it. And
it seems like he didn't let the disease become his definition of who he was.
And he easily could have. He easily could have been the tumors and the chemo, and I'm that guy. And instead, he was the guy that lived life knowing that he was on borrowed time, but didn't wave that flag. And instead, he was very transparent with his journey, helping so many people along the way, whether it was Instagram or podcasts or, however, just being at an event and, inspiring. He was just so inspiring. So he used it, to help others and, living big and living in the light and leading with love and compassion and not becoming his disease was, when I think about him and his earthly experience like that, I'm so proud of him. I'm so proud of him.
What do you think his soul mission was?
To remind people of the impermanence of this life. We talked about that all the time, and what a gift our breath is, our daily experience is, and There's so many things. It's like, don't become the suffering. Life is going to happen, whether we like it or not, good or bad.
He's living every day like it's your last.
Every
We
day,
always
he
say,
really
live like it's your last,
No,
but
he
he really
did.
did.
It was like every meal was just like, he ate like a king and he lived like a king. But he just, it was like humble means, with all these external things going on. But
how was his relationship with the siblings, and how did they deal with it? And at what age did he know, like, I'm coming to the end? Like, when was it like, okay, like death's at my doorstep?
with Lyon, he wouldn't, we had the conversations in 2021. He got really sick in 2019. So he navigated, chemotherapies and surgeries, but still lived big. And the final chemo, unfortunately, that he was on, thinned his intestinal wall. And the tumors, the intra-abdominal tumors, were rubbing against and created fistulas. And so the first time he went septic was July of 2019, where they had to put drains in. And from that point on, up until his final breath, he continued to fight. He, would still travel, still ride motorcycles, but it would be like 2 months in the hospital, coming home and just charging and living. And then he would get sick again and go back in the hospital. And so this was this pattern. In 2021, we finally had that talk. And I said, sweetie, I just need to lay these cards on the table. I don't know if there's a way out of this, and that's okay. And there's life support and there's death support. And right now you are on continuous life support with the draining, there were abscesses intra-abdominal abscesses. So there were multiple drains coming out of his body with bags in his pockets. And it was wild. And I said, and when you're ready, I want you to know that I can hold this space for you. You know that I can. And
so lucky to have you.
So when you're ready for the death support, you just say the word. And if you want to talk about it ever, so we kind of opened the door. Okay. And he fought up until literally the day, November 29th, 2023. It was like, all of a sudden he was like, I'm ready. I'm ready for hospice. And up until then, he was like not willing to give away his surfboards, not willing, he was like, no, I'm going to surf again. I'm going to travel again. And he realized that the suffering was outweighing the quality of life. And he made the decision on his own. And it was the most empowering thing he could have done.
And that was like it was like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Another 2 weeks.
December 17th was his departure day.
So walk us through those last couple weeks, because there's got to be, it sounds like he kind of is like in the acceptance mode where a lot of people aren't. And was there fear?
There was no fear.
No fear.
There was no fear. Once he made that decision, then it was like opening the door, like, let's let the elephant in the room and let's sit with it and let's allow this uncomfortableness to become comfortable.
And how old were his siblings at the time?
Bella's 28 now. So this was 2 years. She was 26 and Harper was 17.
And how were they? Were they part of that process?
Bella they were both very much a part of it. Harper was still in high school. He was a senior. It was, he had just started his senior year and he was a little more shut off. Bella was definitely more curious. She had read all the books and we had all the talks. She was more open to understanding the soul's journey. And they were very much a part of it. And what that looked like was, we brought hospice in and I asked him, I said, why wait until you're gone to have everyone tell you, just at a memorial speak of how much they loved you. I said, let's have it, a living memorial.
Wow.
And
I love that.
So we had about 200 people come over. We did a big barbecue, the Traeger, the barbecue, all his friends. He was big in the surf community and the motocross community, Malibu. And so we just kind of opened up our door and it was just this flood of people and everybody had a chance to hug him and cry and process. and tell them how much they loved him, how much he meant to them. And, there's video and, pictures of that evening that was so impactful, because you don't realize how beneficial for both sides, this healing is. But it's, again, opening the door and letting the elephant out of the room.
But that's such a, people really should look into that. And obviously there's deaths that you don't know are coming, but if you know it's coming,
it's coming, it's
and
golden.
they get into the acceptance phase, like we shouldn't, I don't know. I just think we need to change the way we think of death. It's not even like a nice, because it's almost like this to me is death, right? This where we are is death. That's like
you're going
home and he's going to have a party. So I love that on both sides of being able to say the goodbyes, because it's true they are there watching their funeral, I believe, but it is interesting for them to actually be when you're in hospice.
Final hug. You want that final hug. Like, I wish I got. And, to watch this ripple effect, it's like the pebble in the pond with this next generation of like young 30-year-old kids to have this experience completely different than they've ever known. Like, oh, we can have a living memorial? You mean we can actually like say our goodbyes and have that final hug and have the, final exchange of like peace? Energetically, what that does, in Lyon's case for him, like there's closure with all these other energies.
And no one's pulling him. I didn't get to say goodbye, or I didn't get to.
Yeah.
Because they say when you do go to the other side, you kind of have this godlike perspective, and
you see it all.
You understand, even if you're fighting with someone, you're like, oh, I understand. It's okay. But for the people here, they're left with, and that's why I love mediums, because they really come through the soul and spirit to really allow people to move forward. But people will hold on and they think death is like the end, and I didn't get to say this, and now I'm carrying guilt. So that is such a beautiful thing.
And it falls into the 5 final things, the thank you, I forgive you, please forgive me, I love you, goodbye. Like the living memorial allows that space.
I love that.
There's someone at in my office this week was sitting sadly, and I was like, what's going on with you? She said her dad lives in Mexico, but she's here, and she said, in order to get there, I have to take 2 planes, and then I have to drive for like 2 hours just to reach his where in Mexico he lives. Mm-hmm. And she's sad because he isn't fighting. And she's like, I'm like, her siblings and her they're upset that he's ready and not fighting. And they want him to do, obviously. Yeah. So I was like, this like timing with us talking about this couldn't be more perfect, because, you can help people like when they reach out to you, right? That would be the thing to do, right? Is to say, this is where our family is struggling, and to make that bridge together, to bring them together right now while he's around. Yeah. Rather than carrying that heavy pain. She was in so much pain. I did talk to her about my experience to see if it would help her, because, my dad was in the hospital for so many years, but she was so distraught. You could really see that there was no getting to her, like when you can't reach somebody because they have their definition of what they think it should be.
And their definition of what death is, right? Yeah. We're just fed the wrong things.
This is very
and the quality
common.
of life.
Very common.
And the quality of life. So I said to her, you realize like the quality of life is, if it's not there, then what are we holding on to them for?
Yeah.
Yeah. I always encourage people to meet them where their loved one's at. If someone has made the decision to go on hospice, or if someone wants to fight and they're given a 1% survival rate, just meet them there.
I love that.
Just meet idle and neutral. You're unattached to any of it. You're just going to idle in complete neutrality, and you're going to meet them there. This is their journey. And when they're ready for hospice, we had people we didn't know on Instagram when Lyon made that decision, reaching out to me like through the back door in my DMs, like telling me to encourage him to keep fighting. And I was like,
Oh God.
what?
I actually remember
I guess-
seeing the video of your son. There was like a video that popped up probably because I follow all these types of
Yeah.
accounts, but I remember him speaking and I was so affected, like in a good way. And I'm like, wow,
His
this
like
is
final goodbye.
Yeah, I remember he did
It's
that
on
video.
Instagram?
Yeah, it was like it went viral, right?
Yeah.
Like I saw it. What did he say in that video?
He just said, it was like, thank you so much. I love you all. My suitcase is no longer serving me. It's time for my soul to move on. And I'll always be with you and I'll see you on the other side, and it was just kind of this, our friend Emma did this beautiful, 5-minute video. She did a lot of filming throughout that year, 8mm. And so she did a final goodbye for him. And then he did individual ones like for me and his dad and his siblings, and really beautiful. But again, like sitting with the elephant, like, he's going to sit with this uncomfortableness until it's comfortable. But what a gift, right?
What a gift.
Like we were
And
left with.
how do you feel like you have continued on? How does he live through you? And how is your mission now as his mom?
We had these conversations, before he left, I would just hold his face and I was like, I am so excited for you, and I genuinely am and was, I'm like, do you understand where you're going, honey? Like, you're going to be with everybody we've lost, before. And, just the unconditional love and the connectedness and just divinity. And we would talk about it all the time. Like, we're all connected in this honeycomb and you're going to see it and be a part of it. And I'm going to be here watching the clock and, you're just going to. And so we really kind of, pumped up the idea of him leaving, and menopause just got me. And I can't remember what stemmed that thought. What was I talking about?
Oh, just like how does his
It's a real thing.
How does I know I have it too. I'll be mid
I
sentence.
actually
I'm like,
just
what
lost
was I?
mine. I was going to ask you something that matters to me
Or
too.
I'll walk in the
I wanna ask you-
room and I'll be like, where am I? Why
so
did I walk
cool.
in? It's so bad.
Wait, we
No, but hold
always
on, once-
remind by repeating the words. Just keep saying what you were saying and she's going to remember.
No, I was asking the life, like, how do you feel like his main soul mission is
soul
carried
mission.
through
Thank
you?
you.
Soul mission.
Ding,
Yes.
ding, high five me.
Thank
High
you.
five.
My brain's actually
I was like,
working
my
this morning.
menopause is menopausing. Well, we had these conversations where I was like, when you leave, this is the work, like this is my soul's work.
Correct.
And I knew that before, but again, conscious suffering is I'm going to take this experience and I'm going to alchemize it and be of service. So I feel like he's with me by changing this narrative. It's like every podcast, every family that I work with on hospice, people I meet on the street, all of a sudden like a conversation of death and dying come up, and it's kind of this opportunity to, share. It's just changing the narrative, what we were talking about,
Changing
and
the
bringing
narrative.
back the sacredness and the rituals and the ceremony into something that, is birth. It's like you've got a birth midwife and a death midwife.
I love
and,
that.
We honor, thinking a birth is it, but really this is the birth, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the birth.
I 100% agree. And I always, I'm that annoying friend when I talk to my friends, but if they're going through like suffering, I'll be like, okay, hold on, let's come out of the suffering for a second.
Yeah.
You wrote this into your script, okay? What is triggering? What something's unhealed? And, I've seen friends where they go through like 10 events all at once, just suffering. But then I'm actually watching them heal, right? Because it's allowing you to cry and let go of all this grief you've been swallowing for 20 years. And all of a sudden you're hit with all these events and you're like, wait, I'm not numb anymore. Or my one friend, the headaches just miraculously have migraines for 3 years. And then all these events hit, boom, 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 boom. She's like, I'm drowning. And then I've never cried so much. And all of a sudden she's speaking up for herself. She's back in her power. And guess what? You're in the hardest time of your life, but your migraines are gone. Why?
Yeah.
Because you're releasing. So thank these events,
Right.
right? So I try to at least look at, and it's hard when you're in it, but we're writing this script. What is it showing you? Where is your soul going? And the same for death, right? Like, I just think we got to start. And look, I do think we're supposed to have temporary amnesia because otherwise, how do you really learn, right?
Yeah.
If you're like, oh, this is an illusion, it's not real.
What do you mean by temporary amnesia?
Like when you incarnate, this is all an illusion. This is your movie you're creating. It's not real, right? It is real for the soul. But if you constantly were thinking, this isn't real, these are just events I've kind of scripted into my movie, but eventually I'm going to go to where Lyon is, to where that's real, that's home. This is all.
Okay. Do you think that when you go to the next place that you can visit anybody that you want?
Yeah, I think there's no time and space.
There's no time and space.
It's not visiting physically. It's just, for example, right? Like, and that's what I want to ask you, because I know with my brother-in-law, I have a new relationship with him. It's not physical. How you can feel them if you want to. And when you think of them, right? It's telepathic. That's what they say in NDEs. Nobody talks. It's just telepathic.
Yeah.
How do you have a newfound relationship with Lyon? Does he
connect
show
with
you
him?
signs?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's big on the signs, number sequence. But I was always, my husband calls me Rain Man because I'm always like adding up numbers and, just numbers are everything to me. I'm like a crazy number girl. So
What's your favorite number? Do you have one?
222.
Oh, cute. That's what I tip. That's what I tip when you know how they have that thing at the tip calculator?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do 222 for Christmas.
And looking at the end of license plates, like my brother-in-law always showed me 316, that was his birthday. And do you find that once you're open to it, then it appears?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. A lot of us are closed off. We miss the sign.
Totally. And he, this is the gift of his hospice journey, because he was like, I'm going to show up as a red-tailed hawk. I'm going to give you 222. These are the songs I'm going to send you.
He said that while he was here?
Yeah, so we made a heaven playlist with 10 songs. He's like, these 10 songs I'm going to send you.
What are some of them?
For anytime anyone came over at the end, he was like, look for the red-tailed hawk. Don't forget to look for the red-tailed hawk. So everybody's constantly sending me hawk videos. And so the hawk has been like a huge thing. Beyond that, I feel him, and it's a certain tone in my ear that's a ringing tone. And so I'm clairaudient, so I can hear when it's my guides, and then Lyon came in and I can hear what tone he is. So it's a certain tone in my ear. And then it's a feeling in my chest where it's like this fluffy, warm fluttering where I know when it's him. And when I feel that and the ringing in my ear, like I know he's with me. And I'll call him in a lot and ask him to be with me. And it's so cute. My daughter had a medium reading like 3 days ago, and I just had a birthday. And she said, who just had a birthday? He was like so excited about this birthday. It was so important to him. And she was like, my mom. And she said, he wants you to tell your mom that he loves that she talks to him so much, because I'm constantly talking to him. And, he's always with her. Oh, he said, she was right. I'm always going to be with her. I'm always with her. And
do you think you had other lifetimes together?
Oh, yeah, we did some past life regression.
What are some of the lifetimes you shared? Brother, sister?
Well, we were best friends the previous life. We were best friends, 2 males. And, this was this narrative that we were shown that one of them always passes. And
you're always pulled apart.
Yeah, and there were deep lessons for us to learn. And I had this past life regression, I think when I was like 20 or 21. And so early on, I was like, whatever it is in this lifetime, we have to figure it out. Like, we're not coming back. We're not going to keep doing this. And so we talked about that a lot. But we died I passed away in that lifetime. And Lyon's soul held me in his arms as a best friend. We were young, and we crashed in some ravine. And then a previous one, Lyon was my daughter, and we were in Asia, and it was boys were supposed to be born, and it was a daughter I had, and they ripped. And I had this dream when I was a little girl, a recurring dream. I would wake up screaming and crying that they would rip my child away from me, and wrapped her up and put rocks and threw her in the river.
Oh my God.
And
this poor
so when I did the past life regression, that came up, and it was actually him.
But why do you think all these lifetimes you're ripped apart? Like, what is what is it?
I don't know. There's something deep for us to learn. So we were like, what is it? We
Yeah.
have to, like, every opportunity that we're putting,
You're getting
every
ripped
yard
apart.
visit, we have to dig deep and look at what the lesson is. And maybe it's just the awareness. Maybe the lesson is the awareness of,
Is that you're not really apart.
yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Because we were like, is it acceptance? Is it compassion? Is it trust? Is it faith? It's, we would go down the gamut of like, we would be awake for 2 days in the ER and some new nurse would come in and, fumble. And Lyon and I would be like, we would kind of whisper to each other, like, compassion. Like this is, we
What do
just
you
have to
mean
show
by
her compassion.
what do you mean by fumble? Like she would do what, for instance?
Like bring in the wrong medication or like, whatever.
Something that she would potentially hurt him because he would get like a medication or the wrong, something like that could.
It was just not doing her job properly.
Correctly.
And so we would be like compassion. Like here's someone like we don't know. We don't know what's happening in her home life. She could be exhausted. We're just going to lead with compassion, even though we're like, stuck in the ER because there's no beds and we've been up for 2 days and like, he's in pain and he's septic and, we need to lead with compassion. So that's just an example of
so
like.
Lyon, tell your spirit guides for the next life, you and your mom in this life are going to have a resting life.
Well, we made a pact.
No more being torn apart.
We made a pact where we were like,
no more.
We would laugh if, we agreed to like reincarnate, that we had to talk the other one off the ledge and be like, no, remember, like we're, but I think he got his wings. I think he's
not going to come back.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't think
it
so.
seems like,
that's a goal.
He was a little girl.
Yeah.
The goal is to not come here.
Yeah.
To be like guide others.
I think
I
he's
want to come
learned.
back over and over again, and so that I could feel this train that you guys are on. I feel like we want to come back so that we could have another one and another one. Like I feel like my dad is my soulmate.
Yeah.
And I hope that my son is my soulmate, unless like, and also I hope that he's my husband's soulmate too, because of that connection. But if you have 3 children, how do you know which one you feel is your soulmate? Do you feel a different connection with each child?
Well, what's your definition of a soulmate?
Right.
That's the other question.
You can have multiple soulmates.
Yes. And it doesn't.
Yes.
And soulmate doesn't necessarily mean butterflies, and soulmates could be very
It's
karmic.
a deep soul contract.
It's a
deep soul
contract. So
contract.
even somebody who is not somebody that has been easy in your life, that's also could be a soulmate to teach you.
If you're trying to tell me my mom is my soulmate, I refuse that one.
She's a karmic relationship.
You can have friends, you could have and there's multiple soul. It's not just your lover, It's
And
like
there's
waiting
soul-
for your love
there's-
soulmate.
Yeah, I
soul
wouldn't think my
family.
dad is my lover.
Yeah,
I
there's the
just
soul
feel
family. I feel like all my kids are definitely like my family. Like we're the soul family that kind of Lyon definitely, I know there's a deep karmic agreement with us, this soul connection. I felt it when, he was born, when I was pregnant. Like I was this young, it's like that knowing.
Yeah, by the way, you were in school, you were so young, you were at the beginning of your life. Did you even know what you were? I mean, obviously you didn't know yet, but then it became your life's path.
Yeah. I had no idea. I had no idea what was in store.
What a journey.
No idea.
It wasn't like you were like, I was a lawyer at the time. I was,
No. And so much of it really was, I was just so, the thought of having this being to funnel this love into and to receive the unconditional love. Like it was just, I just needed that, and at a young 16-year-old, mind, that was it. That's what I needed, was just somewhere to put the love and to receive it back, because I didn't have a lot of that at home. And so that was, the initial foundation of this child coming. And then it just manifested into something so much bigger.
What were his last words to you? Do you remember?
I don't, because Sunday was, he passed on a Sunday. And, there was definitely like, I love you, but he was in a lot of pain, and, it was just kind of in and out. He was like bouncing in between the veil and his body.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
And do you, like, when he took his last breath, was it a relief for you? Like, he gets to be out of suffering.
And again, it falls back into the gift of suffering. Like I got to watch him suffer for so long that it was almost this like blessing where I was like, you are free. It was jarring. It was like this, my child is no longer physically here. And, I just held him in my arms for like 30 minutes in his room, and it was just us. And then I opened the door and allowed everyone who was there. There were many of his friends. They stayed there on the couch in the living room, for days. They took work off, and I invited them all in, and we did ceremony with his body. And I included,
Yeah. Have you been to a medium to talk to him?
Like 127 since
she's got to see Shinka. We have one of the best of the best of the best on this show.
Oh, please.
Like, she's incredible.
Yes. I love, and I told, he knew that,
Yeah.
He knew, I would see a medium.
Any big messages that you got that you're like, oh, okay.
I mean, nothing I don't know. It's just that like reassurance when I hear those little things, like, from a medium, like he keeps showing me a red-tailed hawk, and I'm like, just sweet little, messages. It's just that like connection
and validation that he's with you.
Yeah, and I already know, but it feels like a collect call to heaven. That's what they feel like. I'm my hour-long collect call is actually like $300, but.
That's how I felt with my brother-in-law. I'm like, I feel like I just got off the phone with him when I did a medium.
Yeah, and it just kind of like, it's like warm and fuzzy around my heart. At this point, I've spoken to so many mediums, and I have for years because I've lost, my brothers. And so the first medium I spoke to was in 2008, wanting to make a connection with him. And ever since then, I'm like...
We'll give you Shinka's number.
I'm the medium
She's
seeker.
Awesome.
And then just to also realizing that you said at the beginning of the conversation that no one could believe that you were pregnant and that you had this baby, and you were like, it sounded like maybe not totally supported in around you.
Yeah.
And then how wrong everyone is, and how you knew you had the knowing, and then here we are.
And his name, Lyon. That was resistance
love
too.
That. Any advice before we wrap up that you would give people that are going through somebody very sick, they're coming to their end of their days? What would you tell them? Because the person who's going to pass, they know what it is. They're like, oh, I forgot. I'm home. Oh, wow. This was all whatever. But for the people that are going through it and will continue to go through it, what would be one word of advice you could give?
Gosh.
I know it's not easy because there's a lot, but
I mean, there's so many. Impermanence is just something, the feelings, the emotions, the grief, the physical body, like this life. I always try to highlight the importance of understanding that it's all impermanent. And I would tell Lyon, like, our soul is an infinite book that never ends. And how attached are we going to get to one page in this book? And this life is just one page in this infinite book that never ends. So,
love.
We don't need to cling to this one lifetime. It's all fleeting. It's all impermanent. And this story will never end. So, unzipping the flesh suit and leaving the flesh suit behind and taking a step back and looking at this bigger picture of the soul's journey, like we can't hold and cling. Clinging is just going to create suffering, right?
Yeah. Dr. Wayne Dyer, he cut out the pockets of his suits like a couple weeks before he died in his sleep. And I remember they were like, what are you doing? He's like, can't take my clothing with me. Like really the only thing is love. That's the only thing that's real.
That's it. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So. And I know we're wrapping up soon, but this is just such a beautiful thing. It reminded me, Lyon held all these really powerful identities of, the model, the surfer, the motocross rider, the inspirational speaker. Like he just had all these identities. And as they all started to melt away one by one, throughout his illness. He could no longer take a shower. He can no longer surf. He can't get on a bike. He can't, the cool fashionista, just everything. And what was left at the core of that was just enlightenment. It was like who he really was. And I think about that all the time, when all the ego and all the external melt away, what am I going to be left with? And that's what he was the example to so many in that way.
It's the most beautiful thing, because the first thing a medium told me when my brother-in-law crossed over, and it was unexpected. He wasn't like dying slowly. It was just boom one night, was that he's doing the work and he's remembering who he is. And that's the work that you will do on the other side if you don't do it here. And that's such a beautiful thing for you to say, because it's like, oh, I'm an actress. I'm this, I'm that. And that becomes your identity. And sometimes when it's so much, it'll be taken away, and then you're left like, who am I? Like
with who?
Brad, Trevor's brother.
Oh, with Trevor's brother.
It's just such a powerful reminder. So thank you, because we have to just, even an exercise, just staring in the mirror for an hour, you'll start to strip away. It's an exercise that a lot of spiritual leaders do, and you're left with just like, who am I?
Yeah.
Right. So that's beautiful. Where can are you still available if people want to see you for Reiki and or for?
I am. My website is Dancing with the Veil.
I love that.
And, all my services, Reiki, my death midwifery, my little bio,
We'll put that all up for you guys to see.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It was so much information, and I hope this can help anyone, going through that right now.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, can we end it with that thing where you say, thank you, I forgive you, I forgive me?
What's the 5 things?
Say it again.
Thank you. I forgive you. Please forgive me. I love you. Goodbye.
Love it. See you guys next time.
Thank you for tuning in and listening to this week's episode of Heal to Feel. You can write in and ask your questions on our show's IG page at H2F Pod, and we'll address your questions on next week's episode. If this episode helped you, we would love for you to share it with your friends and family. Share the fun with all those that can benefit from a good laugh or cry with us. Please rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and we would greatly appreciate you.